What is up, everyone? I'm Steve, and these are the Memoirs of an Indonesian American, a show that shares experiences, tips, and tools that have shaped friends of mine to become who they are today. I hope that there's something here that you can relate to, whether you're Indonesian or not. In this episode, we will be taking the court with Allie. She's a fierce competitor, a great athlete, but overall, genuinely good friend. She loves the game of basketball, and you'll be hearing about some accomplishments, struggles, and triumphs throughout the episode. Allie will be sharing her experience of being a student athlete, loving sports, and being an athlete on multiple academic levels all the way up to her college career. She'll be offering insight as to how she balanced academics and athletics, as well as some pros, cons, and tips for aspiring student athletes out there. Then, to wrap up the episode, she'll be sharing about how Indonesian American she is and how that's played a part in her life, as well as her important tool and favorite Bible verse. I hope you'll be inspired by Allie's appreciation of being a student athlete. Let's have a listen. All right, so we're here with Allie, and before we jump into being a student athlete and what that entails, I just wanted to know, Allie, what are you passionate about?
As of recently, I've been passionate about my own self-growth. As with COVID occurring and stuff like that, there's just a lot of time to myself, especially when we were forced to go remote. So just focusing on myself and just focusing on like what I need physically, mentally, spiritually has been definitely a journey that I've been working on consistently on, and I could say that I can look back and I'm actually proud of where I am and where I'm going.
For sure. Nice. If you could expand on that a little bit, because you were talking about self-growth, and we all needed self-growth. Through this whole year, it's been crazy. 2020 has come and gone, but what's your advice for those that maybe were lacking in their own personal self-growth or want to start today?
Well, it's definitely something that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. I think why self-growth it can be hard is because, or at least for me, I felt like I never really deserved it, or like that I was just too busy doing something else that I didn't have time for myself. So with COVID happening, I felt like there wasn't really much for me. All I had was like school pretty much, and like I kind of felt like there was like something missing. So for me, what I did was pretty much I started small. So I usually am the type of person who takes like long blocks to study and stuff, and I just burnt out very quickly. So I started like using techniques of like taking like timely breaks, and like I know that sounds so simple, but for me it wasn't. So I started with that, and then I actually got into journaling a couple of years ago. So for that, that's definitely something I've indulged myself in, and honestly, it is something that kind of requires money. It doesn't have to, but I did. So the fact that it did, like, it kind of just felt nice that I got to like splurge on myself, and it was just like a nice time to that I could use that could pass the time, as well as like I can reflect on myself, my day, and just like whatever I needed to like just write, I could just write, and like with no judgment, no judgment from others or from myself. Like I could just do that like freely.
Yeah.
So.
And you could be yourself. And that's cool. So it's a balance or mix of both self-care and retail therapy.
Yeah, I think practically.
Yeah.
It was just like, I feel like it doesn't have to be necessarily journaling. I feel like as long as you find something that you like really like, either that being like drawing, reading, just like watching an episode on Netflix, like I feel like we put so much stress on ourselves throughout the day that we deserve at least one episode or one cheat meal or just something that can hold us over, because honestly, COVID's rough, life's rough, and like at the end of the day, you have to live with your own choices and everything, so why not make yourself happy throughout the day? So.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like you work hard, and it's not like you're like overindulging, but you do need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of times I'm looking back and I'm thinking about others, and I tell them, you know what? You know what life is for?
What?
It's for living, right?
Okay.
So you don't forget to live, because everything you've done won't be worth it if you didn't get to experience life throughout the whole way. So that's really cool. That's really good. So not only if you're studying or doing long tasks to take a break, but even in life, take breaks.
I agree.
Take fun breaks.
It is definitely harder to do, but I mean, I completely agree with that, and I'm still practicing on it. So it's with practice. So
Cool. All right, let's keep working on ourselves for self growth. Stay tuned on Allie's experience on being a student athlete. All right, check it out, everyone. Allie here is probably one of the most successful student athletes that I know, right? So
Thanks.
she's been through academy, high school, and now college basketball. Having to balance that, in my opinion, also as an Indonesian American, I just wanted to get your take, and we just want to learn more about that and how the future student athletes could also be accomplished and do all these great things. So first of all, let's talk about, if you wouldn't mind, your origin story, how you came to love sports and participating in sports, or what was your inspiration?
I give all credit to my parents for this because when I was younger, my parents always worked, so we didn't really have time to spend with them as much. However, whenever we did hang out, they actually let me and my brother just like indulge in all these types of activities in sports. So I just remember like having phases of like playing soccer, basketball, baseball, bowling, skating, ice skating, snowboard, like all those things. Like I did it at least once. I could at least say I did it once. And then basketball is actually the one that stuck. And I think it was kind of biased because my parents and my family are like all like pretty much basketball fans. So I mean, it was just kind of, I was just bound to like love basketball at one point in my life. So that is like pretty much it. And like also like with my brother, like I feel like I was inspired by my brother a lot as he is a great basketball player, and just being the competitive person I am with my brother, I also wanted to say I can do that too. So I think my family is definitely the biggest influence that I have when it comes to basketball.
Super cool. That's awesome. So you're involved a lot. Family was involved a lot, and it was a competition.
Yes.
Cool. So to expand on that, what was it like being an athlete on different levels? So kind of talk me through each phase of life, really. Right?
Okay. So again, I was introduced to basketball at a very early age. So I think it was 6th grade, I was allowed to play in an organized basketball team. And in like middle school, it was very like, it was pretty competitive. I mean, in me back then, also, I'm just competitive in general. So I thought it was very competitive. It was very different because this is with like a group of people that I'm not really usually comfortable with, because I mean, I've been playing with my brother, my cousins, my friends. That's about it consistently. And then all of a sudden I'm thrown into playing with, I guess you could say, random people that I'm not comfortable with. I don't really know. So, I mean, it was fun, but it was definitely like a stepping block of like just learning how to just interact, what teamwork really means, and also leadership. And then as for high school, as it started getting harder, I mean...
Harder as in the athletics or the academics, or both? Or balancing it?
Everything. It was so difficult. But I mean, hey, if you really enjoy what you're doing, everything, all the sacrifices are honestly worth it. And what high school actually taught me was, honestly, I think the biggest lesson it taught me was leadership. I remember when I skipped the season because I transferred schools. I came back the year later and I wanted to play again. So half of the teammates that I usually played with are gone. They graduated and everything. So now half of the team doesn't know me, and a handful just like know me by name. Like we barely played. And I remember like being the passionate person I am, like I just wanted what's best for the team, and I was actually named captain. And I didn't know how I felt about that. But I mean, you know what? Like, I'm just going to try to be the best captain I could be. Long story short, I realized that they didn't like me as a captain.
Oh, man.
Because, I mean, they didn't like anybody. They have valid reasons, but they don't really know me. They didn't really know, like, who I'm about. So, honestly, I could see their viewpoint, and it was just very difficult to get, like, that communication between all of us and have an understanding. So, teamwork and just leadership in general was very hard during that time. But once, like, throughout the season, it, like, started getting easier and easier, and I just feel like that was probably one of the hardest points of, like, where basketball started being like, oh, do I really like this enough to like go through all of this? But I mean, at the end, it was great.
You went all in. Yeah. Now, did you really want to be team captain? It sounds like you were a walk-on captain pretty much. Did you want to be in that role? Or what was the role you felt like you wanted to play?
I don't think I really wanted to be. I just like playing for the game. I don't find myself as like the leader of a group. I honestly don't think that's a role that I'm comfortable with. So that has definitely made me like step up my game. Like, okay, like I need to be an example for all these people. And especially if they don't know me, I feel like I have to prove myself in a different way. And like also trying to be fearless at the same time, because I don't know, I'm small, they don't know me, like I can understand like the trust between like me and these players. It was just like, it's not going to happen within a day or two. So it was definitely something that we as a team had to work on, and it was definitely a struggle, but hey, we made it out. It was great. It's fine. It's fine now.
Good. That's good. Good that you can have that positive experience at the end. I hope. For those of you that played with Allie on those seasons, hopefully you still appreciate her for everything she's done. Shout out to you all. And you came to college and you just jumped into playing basketball, and I think we've all enjoyed it.
Oh wow, yeah.
We don't want to brag, but what's your highest scoring total in a game?
In a game, I have achieved scoring 43 points.
I thought it was 42, but 43 is pretty
42, good. 43. I honestly don't remember. We'll say 42 because I have no idea. Let's
it could have been 43. I don't remember.
Let's humble myself. I really don't remember. I don't keep track. Also, just it's
42.
That was prime time. This is
crazy.
I don't play no more, so unfortunately, but you know what? That was a different timeline. But yeah, so that was great, but honestly, that's not the main point I want to make. But honestly, yeah, for college, I told myself that I wasn't going to play.
Interesting.
Yeah, I told myself high school is it, I'm done. But coming to Andrews, I had no idea of really anyone here. I just came out of a whim because I heard about the program over here. And also being the introvert I am, I just figured that, okay, basketball is like the most comfortable thing I can like do. And who knows, college level is going to be way harder. So who knows if I would get into the team. But let me just see if I could just play, and maybe I could just meet somebody that I could just vibe with, and like maybe it will just work out like that.
You got to take the leap, right?
I practically took the leap. Just like I had no expectations. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm probably not going to make the team. But because like the schools that I was playing with, like they were so small, we never really like cut players. So this was like my first time. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can even get in a team
make the
first.
Team, yeah.
So I was like, I just kind of wanted to challenge myself in that sense. And I mean, hey, I didn't think that I made the team. I had to actually text the coach. I was like, did I make the team? And he's like, don't worry, the team just come tomorrow. I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, someone dropped the ball on that one, literally. They should have communicated with you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just over my head. I was just overthinking everything. But I mean, hey, it all worked out, and I did make it on the team, and I have played 3 years. 3 years
That's
in
awesome.
college basketball.
College ball. And I know Coach would love to have you every year you would play.
Oh wow, yeah. It was fun. It was definitely fun.
Awesome. So to kind of jump into kind of the advice, a little bit of advice. Do you have any, since obviously your primary focus focus was your academics, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't athletics, although somehow it became to be this big balance between both.
Mm-hmm.
How did you prioritize and balance everything that you did on and off the court?
There was a lot of adjusting, definitely. Freshman year was definitely hard because I didn't understand the pace and the load that college has. I just took it lightly, and that bit me later on. So that's why I've only played 3 instead of 4 years. I skipped out my junior year, but I wanted to play again for my last year as a senior because basketball was something that I found myself to be, I found myself like really enjoying and really loving. So I literally did all that I could. I tried to sleep early if I could. I woke up super early, like at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., or whatever I needed to do just to get up, study for the test, do homework, ask my friends, ask teachers for help on schoolwork. I did everything that I could just to make things work out. And hey, I don't regret anything. Like senior year, people were asking me like, why are you even playing again? Like, is it even worth it? And honestly, senior year was probably like my favorite year playing. So I have absolutely no regrets about that year. That was really great.
That's awesome. Because college got significantly harder in the fourth year. For
definitely.
Sure. Particularly for you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So do you have any tips on those that maybe are going to go or are in those kinds of situations, like they don't know how to prioritize or balance, or maybe they're only currently focusing on one and maybe want to jump into athletics?
I learned that you just need to be fearless. You have to be fearless in everything you do, whether that be on the court or off the court. You have to just realize, like, prioritize what really matters. And I liked, a friend of mine told me that you are a student athlete. Student comes first before an athlete. So I knew that in order for me to be an athlete, I have to do the work. I have to be a student first. I have to make these grades. I need to pass my classes, these tests. So, I mean, knowing that, because I know that basketball is always going to be there whenever I need it. However, I need to maintain my grades and everything. So being able to prioritize and time manage. I know some people prefer studying in the mornings and getting up early, or some people just thrive on the late nights and cramming. I don't suggest cramming, but I know that some people just are able to function better in the night. So honestly, you just gotta find what works. You have to find a group of people who you can study with, or if you just do well studying by yourself, you just need to be able to adapt and just figure out what works for you.
On top of being fearless and knowing your strengths.
Yes.
That's awesome. Great. Cool. Now, what about some pros and cons? What was super awesome about being an athlete, and what was just like the worst of the worst about being an athlete? Because it isn't all glitz and glamour, right? Watching you shoot a 3, and at the end of the night, it's not like it's over, right?
Honestly, I would have to say there's way more pros than cons. I'm probably being biased, but this is my opinion. Honestly, basketball has made me the person who I am to be today. It has definitely been a character builder. I've learned so much about myself, and it has made me I believe myself to be a strong person because of it. And it also has given me the opportunity to make all these friends I've made. I actually literally made half of my friends through basketball, in Andrews. So that was that was a whole gateway to a whole experience. And then traveling, who would have thought that I would be able to travel to all these different states just to play? So that was a major blessing. As for cons, honestly, time management, it does suck. But I mean, the sacrifices I have to make for that can be very burdensome at times, because you just start to question yourself, like, is it really worth it? But I believe that if you're passionate about something, then, I mean, hey, really, all the works doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you get to do what you love. And I think that's like a very important thing. So I could try to list cons for you guys, but honestly, I think there's way more pros than there are cons.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have an example of something that at the time you sacrificed and you were like heartbroken about it, but later on you're just like, you know what, I'm glad I did that because I needed this?
Yes, like I said, I skipped my junior year to play. I wanted to skip for my academics. I knew that I needed to take a step back, even though initially that's not what I really wanted. But again, I am a student, or I was a student athlete. Student comes first. I have to prioritize my future rather than just holding on to what I'm presently feeling. So, I mean, this is for what's best for me, and that was rough, honestly. Like, I felt like I was missing out. I felt like I was just like, it's kind of just like stopping myself from doing what I like, and that's like one of the, like, no one likes to be stopped from doing something that they really like. So, but I think because I had that like craving to play again, like, I think that just made my last year, my senior year, such a great experience, because like I finally get to indulge in basketball. Like, don't get me wrong, it was still tough because I still had to like balance everything, but it just made me more grateful that like, hey, like, I can still play, I can still do this and that, and I get to like end my season with like my classmates, and I can make new friends from it. And honestly, like, yeah, it wasn't I couldn't see it then, but like now looking back, like me and my friends or my old teammates, we always go back to that year. It's like, that was a great year. We all have like a similar understanding, like, wow, that if we could play again, like, that was the year. So that was amazing.
Because really, you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, and for those of you, if you're in college, if you're in high school, or whatever point in life you're in, you're not going to be the same, or where you will be as years go on, and you got to make the most of things. That's great. So you took a step back, and that was the biggest sacrifice, because you knew that you were working towards something that was going to last. It's bigger than yourself. Was going to last longer than basketball would during your school years. Cool. And before we wrap up the segment, I wanted to tie that all the way into how it affects your Indonesian American lifestyle, because I feel like, and this might be a blanket statement, but I don't feel like there are that many pro Indonesian American athletes out there. And it's like, you do want to play basketball and you do want to have fun, but it's like, at the end of the day, also, you wrap that up with, you know what, I'm not going to the league. What's my priority? And how did you feel? Did you ever come to that realization? And did you feel some sort of way knowing that, you know, it's going to be over and I'm not actually going to the league, or this isn't going to be my life?
I mean, I've always had a passion for sports, activity, basketball even. But I just felt like, yes, like you said, there's not a lot of just Indonesian, what's the word? There's like no role model, really. There's no big name of an Indonesian, and I'm very prideful to be an Indonesian. However, again, there's no representation, is what I wanted to say. So I felt like it was like my obligation to make a name for Indonesia.
Oh.
So, I mean, I know I'm not all that. However, I know that I could do whatever I can do. I don't think I'm the most like culture aware when it comes to Indonesia. I'm very like Americanized because I was born here, and my parents, they speak a lot of English. But I mean, I'm always down to just like learn about my culture. I'm always like willing to like do what I can for Indonesia, and like if I could spread some awareness to my peers or just my family, or I mean not my family, my friends, then I mean I feel like I've done my job as an Indonesian. That I mean, hey, there's always something great about being different and being like not really American. So I feel like just being able to thrive in your culture is like always a blessing. So I mean, Indonesia. Oh, when Raya came out, I was so excited. Let me just say that. Oh, I was so excited. So I mean, representation is great, and honestly, it's like that saying says like if you want something done, you might as well do it yourself.
Powerful. That's powerful. All right, that wraps this segment up. Stay tuned because we have a lot more Indonesian culture and background to talk about. All right, Ali, so you talked a little bit about how you feel like you're pretty American, but you do have Indonesian undertones, of course. You are Indonesian, your parents are Indonesian, your family there are a lot of friends from church that are. But I'm wondering how much of that actually plays a part in your life and how much of an Indonesian you actually feel like.
Well, I feel like I've been blessed by going to Adventist school for a majority of my life. So there was like a lot of diversity that I've experienced and I've made friends with. And during those times, like, I can always say like, oh yeah, I'm Indonesian. Like it just came easily. Like I didn't really need to think about it so much because everyone knew. But like coming to a school like Andrews is so much bigger, and I feel like in Andrews, because you're in like such a bigger group or bigger school, I feel like you kind of have to kind of make yourself known. And like I think that's why there's these clubs. And I felt a couple years ago, my friends and I in the Indonesian club, we created this like Indonesian night event. And like that probably was like one of my proudest moments of being an Indonesian in college, because that was something that I could indulge myself in, and it's not something like every day. Like no school really like focuses on Indonesia or
or highlights the Indonesian culture.
Yeah, like
or acknowledges.
It's something that you would have to just like search for yourself. So like being in that surrounding of people who are like trying to do all these things to incorporate into this event just to show to our school, it was actually pretty amazing, because like I got to see like different parts of my culture that I probably haven't known, or things that I didn't really realize, and it was just like, wow, so that's what we're about, or like, oh, I didn't know that we did that. So it was definitely a learning experience and something that I appreciate, because I mean, I'm always down to learn something about my culture, and it was just an experience that I wish to expand on as I go throughout my college years and even after that.
For sure. And you and me and like all the other Indonesian American kids out there, we don't necessarily speak Bahasa or the language of Indonesia, but we can understand, right? So we have our own broken vocabulary, and we can speak yes, no's, what time is it, where's the bathroom. But how do you feel like you would be or you would live if you didn't have that aspect in your life as much or anymore, right? Because I feel like some of us, I mean, we're in America. We want to live in and experience an American culture. But how important is our ethnic background?
I feel like it's definitely, like, I've always told myself, like, it's something that I really do need to take time to and, like, just really learn, because I wasn't really given that when I was younger, because, like, my family was just wanting, like, I mean, that wasn't their priority. Their priority for me was getting an education. And, like, I don't blame them for that. But it's definitely something that I want to practice. And I think when I came to Andrews, that's when I started to realize, like, when there was more Indonesians that, like, spoke in Bahasa, and I was just like, oof, I don't really understand that, or I can't really speak it. Like, it just made me want to, like, learn more, because there is just, like, something that I felt like I was missing, that, like, I say that I'm a proud Indonesian, but, like, I can't even speak the language. And it kind of made me a little bit sad, just because I'm like, I should know my language. I should know, like, the culture behind it. So, I mean, it's definitely one of my goals to learn more about it and to be able to speak it, like, fluently. So, yes, I do understand more. So I just need to practice on talking.
Yeah, and like you mentioned Raya, the new Disney movie about the Southeast Asian princess. And we, in a lot of films also, we want to learn the origin story. The main characters want to learn their origin story because that shapes and paints the picture of who they are today.
Yeah.
And they didn't know, like, all along they were feeling a certain way. And then it leads all the way up to this epiphany. I'm like, man, I am so unique. And that wasn't a flaw. You know, because sometimes we grow up, I'm a different color than everybody else, or I eat different things than everybody else. You know, when I go to lunch and I pull out something super random and they're like, what is that? You know, or like you go back and you're like, yeah, my mom was cooking and you smell like Asian food. I'm like, I don't smell that, but I don't know how I should feel about that.
Thankfully, I was in a community that was very diverse, and they were just very open to different cultures, which is why I just never felt out of place. I was probably asked, like, maybe once, I was like, oh, what are you eating? But, like, I don't know. For me, I was just a kid, and I was like, this is great. This is great food, so I don't care. I was
care
like,
about
oh,
you.
this is, like, yeah, it's like, this is great. Like, this is my culture. Like, and I just feel like, because I've been in a great community that's open about it, like, why not take advantage of it and just like expound on it and just thrive on it. If I, you know, like, I do the talk, now I just gotta walk.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Well, I hope everyone learned a little bit from Allie on her Indonesian background and what it really how it made a difference in her American life. And that you guys can take steps to also enjoying and embracing your own culture. In these last segments, we want to talk to you and ask your insight. What is your important tool, your daily necessity, something that gets you through the day?
Ooh. Lately, it is honestly coffee. I've been trying to fix my sleeping schedule, or matcha. It's honestly just something that I've now find it to be like, just like me time in the morning whenever I just like need something, because I have been trying to fix my sleeping schedule so I'm sleeping somewhat decent and waking up early. So it's definitely a little motivator for me, but I mean, I as of right now, I probably need my matcha or coffee.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. Like, having a daily routine needs to start off on a good note.
Yeah.
You don't want to start off on a bad note every morning, right? You want to wake up, and the first things you do are enjoyable for you, right? So if you get up, that's same with me. Like, once I have a cup and I'm ready to go, you know, like the world
Just
can
need that
start,
little
everything can
push.
start. Yeah.
That little motivation.
Cool. So definitely find that for the listeners out there. Find your daily driver, what gets you going, what gets you started in the day, and that's Allie's. Very cool. And lastly, we just wanted to ask if you had a favorite quote or Bible verse to share.
A Bible verse that I literally live by is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. In those days, when you pray, I will listen." So that is just a promise that I like to hold, like, with me, because like with COVID, with school, with anything that doesn't really go according to my plan, I just know that at the end of the day, like God already has a plan for me, and that I can just trust in Him, and everything will work out at the end of the day. So
Very nice. Very nice. And that wraps up Memoirs with a Student Athlete. Catch you in the next one. I'm Steve.
I'm Allison.
See ya.
Bye.